season is about to start, and I have to wrestle. Then I could be in drama club for the first part of the year, join, do my wrestling, and when it's over, come back to drama club. Oh, excuse me. And she said, no, it's one or the other. Mm. And I thought, how could you do that to a kid that wants to do more than one high school, event? That's crazy. So I said, well, then I'm going to wrestle. I wasn't going to throw that away. And I knew when school was over, every day from 10th to 12th grade, I would go down to, this is when computers were really nothing. Mm-hmm. I would go down to the guidance office and look up on the computer, acting, drama, acting school, acting college, some reason nothing came up. And here I was coming back home with AFTRA and NYU and all these places that I could have ended up trying to get into, not knowing, because nothing ever popped up. Maybe I was doing it wrong. Nobody helped. And then when we moved home, that's when it became, even though I had to get a job and I knew I'd be working, it was trying to find out the next steps, which I did just hit the streets and start doing it. But then it became, we went through getting ripped off. We went through, legit places, non-legit places, wasteful classes, helpful classes, and then slowly just, you hear so much information about what's right and what's wrong. To this day, they're still nitpicking on, the font's too big on your resume and the color's off on the color of the, it's horrible. And then the one thing that they tell you always, do whatever you can, get as much work as you can, do as much extra work as you get, anything to put on your resume. And then 5 years down the line, they say, don't ever put that on your resume. It'll ruin you. Don't ever put. So it's very frustrating because, it was exciting for a minute, and then you realize I'd rather be on stage. But that's another thing. My mom kept telling me when we first moved home, do summer stock, go to a theater, keep working it, and I kept saying, I don't want to do that. And, when I finally did, it was the greatest thing I could have done because I grew so much. I had so much fun.
When was this?
That was, well, I had all the years of doing all the local TV shows, of scraping, not having an agent, getting all the work myself, slightly through some friends and doing a couple of little tidbit things. And then all of a sudden, I got in touch with Sylvia Fay, and that's how I started getting, actually at first it was Actors Rep. That was the first place I went to where the guy actually had me read a part, and he said, don't read it like Brando. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about because at that time I hadn't seen On the Waterfront. And it was the whole, I could have been a contender. Uh-huh. I didn't know, so I just read it like me, which was good. When I found out, of course, years later, after studying so many old films and so many old actors, so he was only hiring extra work, so I don't know why he had anybody read, I guess to make them feel more legit. But that's how the extra work started, through Sylvia Fay, and I got my first couple of TV shows. And
which ones?
Then the very first one was Central Park West, which was a tremendous experience to really start with because there was a lot of big stars on it. Muriel Hemingway came and sat down right next to me at the piano and started talking to me, and she was very, very nice.
Wow.
Lauren Hutton was in it, Michael Michelle, and I kept looking at her saying, who is this gorgeous woman? I didn't even realize I had seen her in New Jack City. Like, it just didn't click. I had asked if I could leave early because I had brought a drum set with me. And at the time I had borrowed it. It was like a $3,000 drum set because I was a musician originally. And I asked if I could go break it down and take it out of there because, otherwise I'd be leaving way later. So they said, okay. And I started to walk across the set, and some guy said, hey, you, come here for a minute. And you, and he pointed to a woman, you guys, come here for a minute. And he put us right behind the star, and you could see me clearly. I just you got the star, and I'm right over his shoulder. And, and it ended up being, even on the trailer, they used it. On the part, that was advertising the show. And, it was really, really cool. The first time me and my mom saw it, like, we didn't know what to expect. And we just saw nothing but my face on the screen. And we were just, ah! And then we go back to the screen and look at each other, ah! Like, holy cow. then I had videotaped it, and my friend's wife was working. He's like, Lou, you got to bring it over and show Jen. So I was like, all right. So I'm driving over. I get to a red light, and I was completely overwhelmed with what I just saw, with what just happened. I just saw myself on live, on a TV show, and I started cracking up laughing at a red light, and I looked to my right, and there's somebody looking at me, watching me crack up, and I wanted to roll down the window to explain it, and I was like, yeah, it's not worth it. It was just such a great moment of, wow. Even being on set, like I remember looking around thinking, I'm here. I got this far where, I mean, when you really think about it, it's nothing, and it got frustrating over the years, like Sex and the City and Law and Order and The Sopranos, and you're standing there after all the years I've spent on stage performing and really working and not just being another tree in the forest. It got very frustrating that I am not going to get cast by standing here in a crowd of people. And that was frustrating. So I didn't ever want to do that again.
All right. So you went through a lot of these struggles and trials and tribulations. Did you ever feel like giving up? Saying, this is not worth it?
That's a good question. It's not that I wanted to give up, although there's a lot of mental battles that go on with, am I good enough? I'm not good enough. I can't do this. Why couldn't I do that? How do I learn to do this? And how do I learn to do that? And it goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's a long, big, giant mountain to be climbing constantly with weights on your back until you start to shed the weights. You start to get to the top. You get to the top and start walking down the other side. Not necessarily that you're making it, but that you've got what it takes. I remember a girl asking me one time in a bar, like she had said, what do you do? And when I said I was an actor, and this is kind of young, and she said to me, are you any good? And I thought, like, I paused for a minute because I felt I didn't want to be conceited in saying yes, but I didn't know how to answer, so I paused. And she said to me, come on, you know if you're good or not. I said, you're right. And I know I'm good, but you still have the part of your own security that's telling you, but if I haven't made it, how could I be that good? And then there's the financial end and the work end and everything. I've had every job under the sun, and that's no exaggeration. So when you do that, and in the back of your head and your mind or anybody you meet, it's almost like you want to say, but I'm really an actor. But it doesn't matter. Like you're doing what you can to get there. But at the same time, and even yesterday, I haven't had, I know we'll get into that, but I haven't had a moment like that in a while where I was very upset with myself because big audition, just like some of the ones when I was younger and inexperienced, but because the interview parts are very hard. I had a couple of big interviews where I thought I blew it because I was young and didn't know what to say. But yesterday I had a call back for Blue Bloods after nailing the audition razor sharp. And it was the first time I walked in with a callback where I was meeting the producer, the director, the writers, and the other casting. And I wasn't scared or nervous like I had been in, say, just a normal audition. I was just a little bit of a deer in headlights. I felt that way. When I walked out of there, I just did not feel that I was razor sharp like I was when I got the part. When I got to get the call back.
Right.
And then it was almost going back to those old feelings of, how could you do that after all this time? How could you not be exactly on your mark after all these years and all that work and all that, and I think because I'm so hard on myself, I think that might have been just me doing that to myself. I don't think I was as bad as I thought. I just don't think I was as razor sharp.
You think a lot of actors have these same issues?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because there's not only, like, let's take crying, for instance. I can cry at a commercial. There's loads and loads of things that make me emotional and trigger stuff. The minute the camera's on and somebody says, okay, cry, that's a different story. And it's not done like that.
No.
You give me any part of dialogue where I at least have time to connect with the person and time to sink in and do the part, then it could come natural. And there's no issues there. But, you know, that goes for any other emotion that you're feeling or any part of it. You know, you can, faking it's not going to cut it. No. Whether the audience thinks you were great, whether the camera thought you were great, you know inside whether you felt it or not, and that's the part that gets me.
Yep.
Whether I've been on stage and people said, "Oh, you were so great," I know the difference. And that's why I work so hard to make sure that I know how to get there, or I know I just want to be perfect every time. And that's a bit of a problem because you're not going to be perfect every time. So again, that goes all into the rejection. Like you said, people get rejected. I walked into an audition one time and I happened to look down at this woman writing on a piece of paper, NT. And she handed it to the guy. And here I am standing in front of the camera, getting ready to audition, thinking to myself, NT, NT, NT. What the hell does that mean? NT, NT. And then right before I went on, it hit me. NT, not type.
Oh.
And I had to do it anyway. I was like, no. But again, we've all been on the other side of looking at actors and saying, wow, they're just not right. So it's not always that you're not good enough. And it's not always personal. So that needs to take some of the pressure off you. The most pressure that I feel is financial. You need the work to keep going, and you need the work to get other work and to meet people and have them know that you can do it. And that's been happening lately, thank God. But that has been the biggest struggle. Who do you meet to say, hey, I can do it?
All right, so you did feel like giving up. So how were you able to push past that? How were you able to say, you know what, this is something I really want to do. I just can't give up. What did you find in yourself to push past those limitations?
I think that a lot of it is pride, ego, wanting to prove others wrong. When they tell you don't have it or you can't have it, it'll never happen, it's too hard, and all that crap that, you know, and it's really there is a strange thing about somebody telling you can't, and you want to prove, yes, I can. And, you know, and I used to tell people all the time, if I was no good, it would be so much easier to walk away. But when you know it, when you have, you know, strangers come up to you on the street or people after a show. I mean, one time, actually, it was for Central Park West. It was a little odd story, but I went to rent a tux. I was standing there in a leather jacket, jeans, and boots, and there was a little old man sitting in the corner of the store. And I was waiting for my tux, and he said, "You're an actor, aren't you?" I turned and looked at him, and, "Yeah, how did you know?" He said, "I used to be an actor." He said, "You're going to make it one day." And I'm telling you, Alex, I got the form to sign my name. I signed my name and went to look up and continue talking to the guy, and he was gone. Wow. A little old guy. And there's no possible way he could have walked to the back of that store and opened the door without me catching him in time. It was literally 5 seconds of putting my head down and looking up, he was gone. And I always held on to that like, wonder if that was just a little angel sitting there telling me. But the thing is that, you know, you have to get all past any other reason besides the fact that that's what makes me happy. When I was on set for High Maintenance, I literally looked around and was so overwhelmed by what was going on and how happy I was in the moment, sitting there, shooting, doing what I love for the day, making a good day's pay, that I almost started crying. Like, I just got so overwhelmed with it. And it's moments that are true happiness with, you know, I'm not looking to be rich. I'm not looking to not be able to walk down the street or go to the store or do, you know, be who I am, but to just do what I love to make a living at that. And it's funny because when I met Rick Moranis many, many years ago, and I said, "Do you have any advice for a fellow actor?" And he was